6:30, it's called Public Works Committee meeting to order. I'll ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Ron Kinsley.
Here.
Mark Calvert.
Here.
Ed Peters.
Here.
Dale Olson.
Here.
Ryan Bissonette.
Here.
Let the record indicate we have a quorum with everybody present. Thank you. Number 3, certification compliance with open meetings law.
The meeting has been noticed to the public and news media as required by section 19.84 of Wisconsin statutes.
Thank you. Number 4 is the agenda. The agenda is set. Number 5, public comment. Anybody else?
No.
Okay. Number 6, consider approval of the minutes of the previous meeting on May 12, 21. Motion by Mr. Halwig, second by Mr. Peters to approve as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Olson, for that also. Number 7, Sawyer County Airport report.
Mr. Chairman, I know I sent you an email apologizing for not getting it in before the deadline, and I was just going to do oral for the evening.
It is attached.
Well, that's just an update on one of the projects we have at the airport.
I thought that was something nice to show. Thank you.
Promise to do better. Part of the reason is the construction projects we've had ongoing at the airport.
Gotta speak
Twofold.
up. Gotta speak
We've
up.
been remodeling inside the terminal building, going on 3 weeks now. It's been quite the grueling process, but it's starting to come together now. It's been, well, a long process from when we first started talking about it. I haven't had an office really set up, and we've been busy with the construction project. I can tell you, terminal building's gonna look awesome. I'm really excited about that. Looking forward to we're inviting folks out there when it's all said and done to see the finished product.
What's the tentative timeline to be done?
Well, yeah, the big ones like the holdouts, the furniture, they want all your money up front, and then 8 to 16 weeks later, you might get it. So it might be not until September when you see the furniture.
Just want to know when we're going to schedule our meeting out there.
I don't have a conference room table. I took it out, but no. So that's a huge step, with Hayward Aviation and the commitments that we verbally made, at least, when we were negotiating hangars, remodeling terminal building. All those things were part of the discussion, and we're working towards holding up to our end of the bargain on the things that we promised that we say we do. So working on that front. More of the airport manager role here, the contract with McCabe doing the construction at the airport started on the 24th. We're about half done already. There's been anywhere from 30 to 40 contractors, construction workers in and out of the airport every day since the 24th. They've hit it pretty hard. The engineer put together a really strict working day schedule for the project. So that means lots of different things going at the same time, contractors working different parts of the airfield. So there's been a lot of long hours, and the contractors start early and they work late. And it's my responsibility to keep tabs on people at all times anyways.
And we're going to be closed when?
Runway closures start on Monday, and provided we're not going to have any rain days, they'll be done by the end of day Wednesday. We'll be back open Wednesday night. That's putting mastic in the runway joints, which is a different compound than what's used usually. It's essentially going to be capping off all of our runway joints, and we're eyeing up new runway in 3 to 4 years. That's part of this process. This is kind of what you do once those joints start once the joints start getting 4, 5, 6 inches wide, like ours are. You have to come in and put a different type of harder material in so it's safe for the airplanes to come and go, but then that's just a Band-Aid to get you through the final push. So I know I don't have a report of entitlements with my report, but I've had it in there for months now. We need to start discussing and start thinking about the 5% match for the $3 million project to put that new runway in. And that starts now with when we start working on budgeting for 2022. And as Tom and Mr. Chairman, as you guys start thinking about things, it's coming. So I don't know, there's not much I can do right now, other than just let you know that
So
Let's
next
be in
month,
our
try to bring
minds.
us the numbers that you can.
Okay.
Hopefully that things will be done so you can.
Well, Mr. Administrator and I need to get together and talk about budget for the fiscal year 22 as well. I don't know if you guys have done that yet, have you?
No, we'll schedule those all pretty soon, but we're starting the process.
Yeah, so, and I'm gonna be bringing a few things, hopefully the committee too with Tom to discuss about budget for 22. But otherwise, Tom and I keep in communication quite a bit. Kind of goes in spurts, but we talk often when needed to make sure that we're keeping tabs on all the things that we need to. So, any questions for me, airport operations, concerns?
Any questions?
We've got Young Eagles coming up on Saturday. Young Eagles is EAA, Environmental Aircraft Association. They're one of the biggest names in aviation. So on Saturday, the Sawyer County Airport and EAA and Hayward Aviation is all hosting Young Eagles. Terminal building's a mess, so we're going to be housing the event in the Hayward Aviation hangar. So that was just solidified today. COVID's kind of had things messed up with those guys too. But I think that they're going to try to get some notice out, Facebook pages, potentially on the radio as well, having the Young Eagles. Usually they do anywhere from 30 to 50 flights, and most of the time it's the first time that many young kids, I think the ages are 7 or 8 to 14. Or I tell you what, don't quote me on that, something among those lines. But yeah, usually it's 30 kids. If they have a nice day, there'll be more. It's the first time these young children have ever been on a small airplane before. So it's really wonderful for the local EAA chapter to bring that opportunity to the people of Sawyer County.
Is there going to have a pancake breakfast this year?
It's still a big question mark. I had Al Feckler, the squadron commander for the Civil Air Patrol in the terminal building just a couple days ago. They're an auxiliary unit for the armed forces, essentially, and the armed forces haven't given them, is it Air Force? Sorry.
Air Force.
They haven't given them guidance or approval to do it yet. So usually what the CAP does is they have a turkey trot in the fall. They started doing 2 fundraisers to kind of help float themselves through the winter. And they did that a few years ago because the propane prices were so outrageously expensive. They had to do something because they didn't have enough money. Now we're talking about potentially, if they do get clarification, maybe just having a pancake feed around that Thanksgiving time, see what the turnout is. They may get a little better numbers, offering that instead of, having a 5K run. That's, I think, what it's looking like. It'd be hard to organize it now. We're getting so close. So I can't imagine it'll happen the first Sunday in July.
Very good. Thank you. Any further questions? Hearing none. Thank you, Terry. Number 8, Highway Commissioners Report.
We got about 4 months of funds balances there. December goes out, and then January through March. I don't know if anyone's got any questions. We had to kind of revise the components section of the funds balance going into 2021 because of a couple of issues. One of them being we're going to do some borrowing. Counties determined we're going to do some borrowing for capital expenditures, and that had to be reflected in our funds balance we had like 3 things that were going on, and our office manager couldn't get into the numbers to come out. And looking at it, I determined we needed to add these items to our components to make it balance. And so you'll see different things up there. Borrow for capital expenditures, health insurance decrease, which came in after everything. That was some concessions were made on insurance to bring rates down, and then funds balance applied of $200,000. So those are 3 things that you typically don't see in our funds balance components. So that's a little early to tell you how we're doing. As far as some of the accounts, we'll be playing some catch up on incidental labor. get hit with the expenses and then the revenues usually trail behind, especially when we're trucking, we get some good revenues coming in. And that's when all our field labor comes into the summer. So we're actually better than we were last year at this time. County bridges, we have 128,000 in there, but that's also the money that LCO has committed through their bridge program to the county. So I'll have to work with the county manager Keith as far as how we handle those monies. I think the intent was to borrow for that, so that'll be 128,000 less we'll have to borrow if that does come to fruition. So does anyone else have any questions on it? I can try and answer them. Or if anyone looks at it later and has questions, feel free to email me, whatever.
Tell us about the flood damage on.
Okay. So on May 21st, we had a significant rain event, and it ended up flooding out 3 of our county highways, County Road E, County Road N, and County Road F. The most significant damage, the stuff that's eligible for reimbursement, occurred on County Road N. And as a result, I need to file a disaster damage aids petition with the DOT. What that requires is this body here adopting the petition which is included in your packet. And basically what it is County Road N. You can see I've included a location diagram where it occurred, just east of the intersection there. Not just east, several, quarter mile, half mile, going up the hill. It was like a river alongside the road. LCO road maintenance had gone through there in the morning, and it's like a river. It was an hour later, the road was gone. You can see I have just attached, I don't know if I gave you guys 1 or 2 pictures, but it literally just buckled the roadway out and undermined everything. So what I'm proposing to do, it's distance of 530 feet, and I'm waiting for a call back from DOT, but I feel that the entire roadway's been compromised, including, well, there's 3 areas where it was anyway in the eastbound lane, but I'm going to put in, you can see that picture there. You see how it's, the cone's right there? See where it's all the way over into the other lane of traffic? There's 3 instances of that on that, in that 530 feet. But I believe there's some stress and some things have occurred that we can't see right now with the naked eye. You know, I think we've got some failures there. So I'm proposing that we go through and we saw cut each end and we remove all that blacktop and then fill it back in with 4 inches of blacktop. I need to get buy-in from DOT because this is a 75-25 cost share program. I certainly don't want to do something and then they say, we're not going to do that. And I don't want to piecemeal it. I mean, that's my fear. And I hope that that isn't the way they're going to look at it. But I don't know. If you looked at that picture, I don't know how you could say, yeah, just repair that 1 lane and we're good to go. So.
Is that currently closed then?
No, we opened it that day. We had a hard time because it was on Friday morning and a lot of guys had other commitments, but we were able to get a crew. We had it open by that evening. We just broke it down and backfilled it with gravel. So that's where it's the condition it's in right now. But we did go back out and do some other work. The other 2 roadways, County Road F and County Road E, they were not eligible under the DOT. The roads weren't closed. It was minor shoulder washout. There is minor shoulder washout with the Wisconsin Disaster Fund, which Pat Sanchez provided us with some information. There's a $65,000 threshold. And it just wasn't worth commingling them, getting this project at 75% in with these 2 other little minor ones. And I'm not even sure I could have hit the number anyway, because our estimate, as you see, is $48,803. So I don't know if I could even hit 65,000. And I could have if they had allowed us to do some remediation. You know, like what I mean is I had 3 culvert pipes along that stretch on F that caused my problem. They're undersized. They need to be upsized. past program won't pay for that. So, they replace in kind. Well, what is that? do? All you're doing is you're waiting for the next big rain event, unless that's the largest rain event we're ever gonna have again. In that case, we'll be fine. So, I guess what I need approval then for the committee to
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
So we need approval for the County Road End 2021 flood damage. We have a motion by Mr. Howard, second by Mr. Peters. Any further discussion?
I just had a question, Gary, does that 20 or 48,000, does that include the effort that's been expended already?
Yeah, it's our actual, we've, my patrol superintendent put together a nice little report, which I didn't include for you guys. I probably could have, he gave it to me afterwards, but that's fine. But yes, it's got our actual costs incurred, and then it's also assuming we're gonna go in and do the entire full width of the 530 feet.
Hands up.
No hands up. Okay. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Any other questions for Gary?
I do, Mr.
Yes.
Chairman.
Yes.
Gary, when do you expect the Whitefish Highway E Bridge to start the construction? Are we still gonna do that this summer? or is
Oh,
it-
yeah, it's been awarded to Larson Construction out of Chippewa Falls. I spoke with the representative from DOT who handles the local program, and he said he heard they were talking possibly August. But it's up to them, totally up to their discretion when they want to start it. We will get nothing more than a 2 to 3 week notice. Send me a notice for a pre-construction conference and say, pre-construction conference is gonna be July 20, whatever. And at that point, we'll have the meeting, and then everyone will be either the utility, all the affected people will be the utility companies, the DOT, the contractor, the county. And then they'll go over the schedules and everything, and they'll actually they got a nice little schedule sheet. So and they'll have everything on there. It's a lot of good information on it.
Okay.
It's just that it's a very concerning area, with the stop sign at each end of it. And
Yeah,
I've been through there, and then for some of the tribal members too, some are not stopping.
well, I'll tell
I
you.
mean,
what,
you can come to it and you can see, and I waited till.
The alternative, they don't want the alternative. I begged the DOT. I went out on a limb with the DOT.
not
Central
sunlight.
office wants that bridge shut down. I said, please, I got our consultant out there, keep one lane open. So the last thing I want to see is that bridge closed, and it can be closed. I mean, DOT could change their mind and say, you're closing that
Yeah,
bridge.
any report to them that people are not stopping, that could probably do it.
That would do it. That would probably trigger it, because that's what happened years ago in the town of Winter when we had a bridge no one was supposed to be going over. We found out people they came and they put a chain and padlock across the roadway. So I appreciate you fielding any of the calls or anything, but if we can keep it in-house, it'd be great right now. It won't be long now. We'll get to it.
Okay. Number 9, Sawyer County and Snowville.
I got my commissioner report.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Anyone have any questions on it? I do have some updates on it. Mastic sealing, when I left office, I went down, I just got back from Highway Commissioner Conference, Highway Summer Road School this afternoon. When I left, the rental pot was down, was not functioning. So it was supposed to end the rental tomorrow. So we were gonna, at the time when I left office, we were gonna work a half day on Thursday and then bring a small crew in to clean it up and return it. I don't know if our days are going to be extended, but we're on County Road F right now. We started at 48, we're working our way up. We're going to just do as far as we can. We're very happy with it. it looks like we did a portion on County Road Double N. And we didn't realize it was gonna take that much material. We didn't realize how bad it was, but I think, we're gonna get a lot of years out of that road now, a lot more than we would have. Then I went over the flood damage, the mine safety training. I had no less than 5 guys come up to me and tell me it was the worst training they ever had in their career.
What
I'd
kind
have
of
to-
training?
It was virtual training, but we got our certificates, okay? So we met the requirements. It was virtual, put on through Wisconsin County Mutual. Heard same reports from other counties, same thing. It's just really hard to take a subject matter like mine safety and try and put it on the screen and, computer. You had to access a portal through laptop, which I want to thank Mike Colson, IT helped us out, got us all set up with speakers. But it's a lot to sit there for 8 hours and watch people on videos, and it's tough.
I'm just curious, what kind of mine safety would you guys?
We typically would have an individual come into the highway department.
Oh, gravel pit?
What's,
Gravel
oh,
pit?
yeah, gravel pits constitute mining. Yeah, that's why we have to have it. But we typically have an individual come in, but at the time everything was being scheduled, we were on lockdown, and I didn't want to schedule anything. Everything happened so fast. I mean, at one point, we didn't know how we were going to do this virtual training in our training room because, we still had a masking policy. And so, and as you heard me saying, we've got a very high rate of vaccination at the highway department.
Yeah, that's unheard of.
So everything's working out good with our seasonal help. As far as our 2 flaggers and our 2 skilled, I have a vacancy in the Radisson shop. I received a retirement notice out of the winter shop, and after this was drafted, I received a notice for the Hayward shop. So I currently have 3 vacancies right now, well, by next week. The Hayward shop has not been advertised yet. The Radisson and Winter we're interviewing was supposed to be 6. I just got an email from Rose, 1 declined, so we've got 5 applicants we're going to interview tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. We're going to do an oral interview and then an equipment skills test. So hopefully we'll get some good candidates out of there. And a lot of the applicants they're not far from those reporting shops, which is good, which is really, really important, because it doesn't pay for me to have a guy come in who lives north of Bruce coming up to report to Hayward for a snowstorm.
Mhm.
That guy can go from north of Bruce to Radisson shop and at a quick time. So, and then that's all I have. Unless anyone has any other questions.
I just want to clarify, I'm not really that stupid. But when I was in the military, I dealt with mines, mines in the ground,
Oh,
drive over and boom, So I'm like, what the hell would our guys be doing with mines? Sorry.
There was a question asked when you're gonna start mowing the roads. They thought you did a wonderful job last year, and the person was just curious.
we started on Tuesday. We've got 2 new mower operator guys. So they have to be trained. They started training them. Actually, may have even started them training them on Monday. And then our state guy who's already trained, one of them was retiring, he started mowing on Monday. So I guess you could say we started this week.
Oh, I was curious. So what are those positions that you lost?
Driver operators.
Okay.
3 really good employees, gonna be missed, experienced. One of them was actually just 6 months experience. He's one of our new guys. We really had high hopes for him. And, can't fault him. Kid came to us with a degree from Stout, and he knew we always knew that was a possibility.
Mhm.
And he actually ended up with number 2 person at Polk County Health and Human Services. He got a position there, supervisory.
It took a cut and pay to get done.
He's probably making double the triple what we were paying him.
Well, that's good that he got that opportunity.
Yeah, I was happy for him. As much as I hated to see him go, I can't ever stand in the way of someone advancing themselves, and I was very happy for him. Yeah, big shoes to fill
Mr. Bissonnette, go ahead.
Thank you, Ron. Hey, Gary, it's ironic that Tweed brought up the Whitefish Bridge. I didn't even get a chance to talk to him today, but just this morning, one of my employees that lives in the Whitefish community right there that crosses the bridge every day asked me if I had been across the bridge lately, and I said no. And they said, you really should go down there. The other side of the bridge, well, the side that you can drive on apparently is looking really bad. So I said, well, I'm going to have a committee meeting tonight and I'll see Gary. So I'll ask him how often that gets inspected. It might, I don't know. I haven't been down there, so I can't say, if it's just her or what, but how often does that bridge get inspected then?
It doesn't, Brian. It got an inspection after we had the 2 full depth holes and we placed the steel plating on it. It's only required to be inspected every 2 years. So we haven't been down there. But we did, as a result of the last inspection, that's when we went 1 lane, 10-ton weight limit. I think I might know what she's talking about. I'll take a drive down there after the interview tomorrow and look at it. I think there's a couple smaller potholes. We're not talking about the same type of thing. I hope not, that we have on the 1 lane, but I think that's what she may be referring to.
Yeah, it could be. But, going back to the double N wash or the County Road N washout, well, we were down there that morning before you got down there, but the following couple days later, I went down there. I couldn't believe you guys had fixed it already. So I want to thank you and your staff for doing that. That was pretty quick.
I'd like to thank you too. I think you had up conservation. Henry Berhart was a huge asset to us that morning, as well as Mike Marcourt and the crew. I mean,
yeah.
They were right on it. I received a message from Henry Berhart before, and this isn't against anything against Sheriff's Department, not in any way, shape, or form, because they can't be everywhere, but I received a text with photos from Henry Berhart before anyone had anything, before the sheriff knew or anything. So, and I really appreciate that, Brian. You can relay that up.
Thank you. Mr. Olson, do you have anything?
I'm good, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Gary. Number 9, Sawyer County Snowmobile Alliance draw request. Merle Tech.
Yes, sir. So the Alliance is requesting to extend Highway K. Right now it's currently open for ATV use from LCO grocery store all the way down to the Grindstone Boat Landing Road there. So what we'd like to do is go from there to Highway KK and then open up Highway KK down to the end of the road down there where it turns into town road. So that way the ATV riders can access the businesses down there to Anglers Haven.
Gary?
Yeah, this has been in the works for probably 3 or 4 months. Don approached me 3 or 4 months ago, and it's just run through the process. I don't have any issues with it. I've, of course, been on the road many times. My only concern was that it did not extend beyond double K, because then it would be dead ending at a state highway, which there's no way that there's ever going to get a trail on it. I don't think so. I'd be surprised, but yeah, shouldn't say never, but right now they would not get a route along a state highway. So I didn't want to see a route extend to an end at State Highway 27. So they scaled back their request. Town of Bass Lake did approve it. They had, I think through the Town of Bass Lake, they do have some citizen input, and there was no issues. 1 or 2 maybe.
there was some issues with the town roads. Town of Bass Lake opened up some of the roads down there.
Down there.
And that was the issue, and the town of Bass Lake was looking at Highline Road to the north, and there were some serious issues there. So the town didn't open up those town roads, but they did approve K and KK. And some of the roads at the end of KK.
Yeah, Circle and Rewar, I think, right, yeah. So it doesn't go, it goes down and then that's a big loop around the end of Double K. Double K ends at the Durfee Lake Boat Lane. And from there, those roads are, there's two roads, those are town roads and they're approved now.
Yes.
Don, how does that business feel at the end of K?
They support it.
They support it.
Wait, the end of K or?
Travelers, Mathis.
End of K.
I've been told they would like to see it go down to K, but going by Gary's concerns about dead ending down there.
Yeah.
I have my same concerns there, that I don't wanna go down K and it dead end at 27 down there.
Have
Just
you
a little
talked to them?
I have not talked to them personally. I've just been told secondhand. So I will stop down there and explain to them, but I'm afraid that if we do go all the way down to 27, that people are gonna,
I'm sure that 2770 will Jim Rass is wide open because they're cranking across there all the time.
Yeah.
So is that a stopper to approve an issue there?
I
Or
should approve that
should approve it anyways?
as presented.
Okay. I make a motion to approve as presented.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Howick, second by Mr. Peters to approve as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Walter. Number 10, Maintenance Department report.
Any questions on my report at all?
You feel okay?
Oh, yeah. I just have one correction on my report. Wants me to talk, and I was trying to shoot my report out towards the end of the month, and I kind of projected out the startup on the jail air conditioner. And it, yeah, I think it was a combination of starting it up in the 92-degree weather. We've had, well, it's mainly on the contractors, but my phone, it gets ringing off the hook on it. We've had like 3 parts fail right out of the gate. So the startup, we're still working with the company in Minneapolis, Rasmussen's. Everybody's been trying their best to get it going. One day one person went to Duluth for parts, somebody else jumped over to Minneapolis, and they worked on it until like 8, 9 o'clock at night. So I'm a little presumptuous on that. I thought it was just gonna go like clockwork. So, but other than that, everything else on the report should be fairly accurate.
Okay. Questions about his report?
Well,
Yes.
it did come up at CJCC today regarding the prisoners and the heat and in the jail. And they did want to know if the air conditioning and what was their comfort zone and things like that. But
Yeah.
I just
So,
want you to know that they're aware of that, and they were asking that Mr. Johnson, the jailer, and he didn't bring that up at all.
well, and there's been some confusion in the whole process because the Huber side, or their, maintenance is the 75 portion of the jail and the 06. They're two, I know they're connected, but they're 2 separate buildings. And so somewhere along the line, a lot of staff members had the idea that this air conditioning unit that went in on the 06 jail was air conditioning for the entire
Facility?
yeah, the entire facility, and it's like, no, they're 2 totally separate air handling systems and everything. So we've been talking through that with a lot of staff and kind of, explaining how these 2 different buildings work. Going out into the future, 2022, 2023, part of the budget process we're in right now for 2022 for the CIP, and working with couple contractors to try to get a quote for, just to give us to gauge what it would cost to put air conditioning into the 75 portion of the jail as well as the kitchen. So yeah, it's very hot building. So hopefully the way some of that air exchanges, by bringing down the 06, it'll have a little bit of residual effect into the Huber side.
So currently, the Huber side is not AC.
No, it has, it does have a system right from when it was built that tries to draw in cool air at night and try to kind of cool that side off a little bit, but
Everything is hard when it's this hot.
oh yeah, and it's a lot of block, and when that concrete gets hot, it's
Doing the best you can
They
with what you
definitely
got.
climb.
Thank you. Any questions for Tim? Thank you very much. Number 11, county cell tower lease discussion and possible action.
Yeah, I think Rebecca had been dealing with one of the issues. Are you still on, Rebecca?
I am.
Thank you. Did you have comments on this one?
Yes. I've been before this committee in the past to bring to you some proposals from American Tower Company, ATC, regarding one of the cell towers that it has on county land. And those discussions stalled for a bit, partly because of a lot of the changes in the telecommunication industry, company buyouts that I can't even keep track of, all of the advanced technology now with 5G and so forth. So we're back now, if you will, because we have a new offer from ATC. I'll walk through these briefly, and I did not provide copies of the actual offers because we're not in closed session. And what I'd like to do tonight is just get some direction from you on how you'd like me to proceed. So when I do come back with something of substance for you, whether it be draft agreements or, again, something more substantial, we can have a more in-depth conversation. So just to give you a little bit of background, again, there's two tower sites at issue. And essentially what American Tower would like to do is either have a lease extension, and this applies to both sites, for an increased period of time, or do a perpetual easement for each site, which would essentially give them an exclusive easement over those sites. Now, one of the considerations with both of these options, number one, is how is it going to impact, the asset that is owned by the county. And right now there are leases in place. So when you think of it from a title standpoint, the assets are already encumbered. So the question becomes whether the rights that the county would be giving away under these new options are worth it. So how do we decide that? You weigh what the additional restrictions would be, what rights you would lose, and what compensation you'd be getting. In reviewing the terms that I've seen thus far, policy decision on how you would want to proceed. But just to give you a little bit of insight, the perpetual easement, and the lease buyout can either be paid over a period of time, or it can be an immediate lump sum. If you take an immediate lump sum, the payment is going to be more. For example, on the one Hayward site, the lump sum buyout that they're proposing now is $219,000 for perpetual easement, whereas the lease buyout is $185,000. And again, those numbers are adjusted if you wanted to be paid with that lump sum price, or if you wanted to be paid annually over 5 or 10 years, or monthly over 5 or 10 years. There's lots of different ways to break that down.
How long,
I'm sorry?
How long a contract are we talking?
Okay, so right now, for your the Hayward site, it would extend the lease. Oh, I should have that readily available. I believe it's 50 years. So it's a long time. I mean, these agreements are there for a long time. Now, keep in mind, title does not change hands, but with the perpetual easement, you are effectively giving up most of the substantial rights of ownership that you have in these assets. Now, but the question becomes is what have you already lost, if you will, in the leases you've entered into now? And that's part of what I'm doing on a preliminary basis. But once I have some more direction from you, I can do in a more detailed basis is what additional rights would the county be giving up if it wants to move forward with the perpetual easement or a lease buyout. I have reviewed their initial agreements, both from the first time we were at this rodeo and then again, and those agreements haven't changed too much. But unfortunately, ATC will not give us solid drafts of what these documents are going to be until the county makes an election of whether they're going to do a perpetual easement or a lease buyout, if they are going to do anything. So that's another reason I wanted to have this discussion tonight, just to keep facilitating the dialogue with ATC.
We have a question here.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Howie?
Hey, Rebecca, what restrictions would that be putting on the tower if they were to, because didn't they say they wanted to take it over in a sense? Exclusive, thank you.
Yeah, they would have, yes, they would have really exclusive authority over the tower and over the site.
So the question is probably on a 50-year lease, how do we want to receive the money? Do we want to pile up front because in 50 years, who knows if you're going to need a cell tower?
Mm-hmm.
Or do we stretch it out and take so much each year? And that's what you're looking for guidance on tonight.
Right. And also keep in mind that, I am not by any means a tower engineer in any way, shape, or form, or even an IT person. But I do know that, as you all probably know, technology is changing. And my first question was really, well, why would ATC even want these towers? Because with all of the other technology that is being developed, the word on the street is that tower technology is going to be obsolete, in the relatively near future. So I wanted to know, why do they care so much about these towers? Why are they willing to pony up this money if they're not even that valuable of an asset? And the reason that at least I could discover was, number one, because of the location that the towers are in, and the more rural nature of our community in Sawyer County and surrounding areas, the towers are still very important from a technological standpoint in providing the services that their tenants provide. So that's number one. And number two, they want to have these facilities in place so when they do expand their network with these new technologies, they've already got the base service, if you will. So they're kind of using these towers as sort of a launching point or a stepping stone to put out their new technologies. And then once that technology is up and running, then the towers really do become obsolete. So from the county standpoint, one of the benefits here is that if you take either a lump sum or if you take a payout over 5 years, you may be maximizing the value of that, of the county asset if the tower technology becomes obsolete. You're getting your money up front. So that's a good thing. But that, again, it has to be weighed against what else are you giving up? And so, you know, I don't have, you know, in terms of a recommendation for this committee, I'm happy. Let me ask you this, Mr. Chairman, would you like me to give you a recommendation, or how about if there's more questions? I'm happy to answer more questions.
Thank you. I do have a question. Go ahead.
Well, as far as the restrictions, my question on the restrictions, don't say other cell companies sometimes use someone else's towers?
Yes, they do.
They do. So that was kind of my question on the restrictions. Is that by them getting it exclusively, would that keep, say, Verizon or whatever from using that tower?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Okay. The exclusivity doesn't relate to the space on the tower because ATC owns the tower. That's not the county asset. So if ATC wants to change its relationships with the carriers on the tower, that's within its discretion. The county doesn't have any ability to control who is going to be a provider on the tower. We don't have that ability now under the existing lease.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Huff, do you have a recommendation?
It's a policy decision on where you want your cash flow. And I don't know, Mike Colson, do you have any other words of wisdom on tower technology? And
it's not my forte, so I don't really have anything. I couldn't speak to how long they'll be relevant or what the future technology is, other than, like Rebecca said, it's a physical asset that they might put future technology on, so some of it will still be valuable.
And we don't have to do anything necessarily. I mean, we've heard from them several times over the years on, you know, other proposals. So the proposals keep coming. You know, we have an arrangement now. They would like to do something different, which provides sooner cash flows.
What is our arrangement presently?
I don't know what the annual payment is now. Do you have that handy, Rebecca?
I don't. And I actually was looking in the file when we had this discussion the last time, because we did do some cost breakdowns of what, you know, the rent now versus, you know, how that compares to what a payout would be. And I don't remember what it is, but I can certainly, I mean, that's obviously important information. And I can get that and I can forward it to the committee members, you know, and then so long as no one forwards that, we don't have any quorum issues, but I can send that, or Tom, certainly I can send it to you then if you want to circulate it, or send it to Chairman Kinsley, you can circulate that too.
Just a minute, we do have it available.
I have the American Tower Ground Lease Agreement 00285. Let me check the date first. That's do you know how long these are? This was signed in 2009.
What is that one?
This one that says rent.
Do you have a site number for that, Lynn?
It should at the top. Does anyone else know how to read these quicker than I do? I see a rent of commences installation. Rent will be a one-time aggregate payment of 200,000 or two. There's a zero missing. 200,00. The receipt of which owner acknowledges. Therefore, thereafter, rent will be paid on or before the 5th day of each calendar month in advance in equal monthly installments of $600. Partial months prorated.
I think this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna put it on the agenda for next month. So maybe we can have the numbers. But if I had to say anything now, I'd be looking for a pretty healthy chunk spread over 5 years, but also I want that to continue out over the 50 years because I don't want to hamper anybody on county board later that still might need some cash flow coming in.
Mhm.
That's my thoughts. But I want to get value out of it, why we know it is valuable. I don't want to take it all. So we'll put it on the agenda for next month.
Sounds good.
Any other
Thank you all. I appreciate that. It's good to have the clarification, and I'll get you some more detailed information next month. And if I can get some more details too from ATC regarding some more specific drafts of documents, I will certainly forward those too, because it would be nice to have those prior to making your decision.
Thank you.
All right.
We're going to move on to number 12, courthouse remodel update. Letter A, ad hoc committee update. Ad hoc committee met today at 5 o'clock. We have an agenda we went over. We have approved to pass on to Public Works the contract with Ventures. The contract with Myrons is not complete yet, so obviously we haven't approved that yet. We also discussed the committee roles and responsibilities as we go forward. We talked about local bidding, we talked about solar options, and we talked about finance project timeline. A lot of things can't be answered until as we come to it, but we want to keep the ad hoc committee informed best we can. And the reason I'm on that ad hoc committee is so I can keep the Public Works Committee informed as good as I can. We also talked about the 5th Street and California Avenue update. Sounds like there's a short delay in that. And but we think that'll be wrapped up by early July.
Yes.
We talked about the funding for that portion. We're thinking that some of this recovery money might be able to be spent on that, but we don't have an answer yet. And we talked about transfer of paperwork for 5th Street, California Avenue, which has not been done yet. Questions?
So we're working on getting ready to pay for the California update, but we haven't actually signed documentation for the 5th.
I don't think we're ready to pay for it. We're just looking how we're going to pay for it, wondering if we can use some of them funds for that, which we don't have, can't answer that yet.
But they weren't really gonna swipe the dirt until he said we're gonna pay for it, correct?
We do have an agreement with the city for the construction of California Avenue, and that we are going to pay for it. The paperwork that they're talking about is the land underneath and swapping the land underneath. But we've already got the agreement for the construction and the payment for that construction.
I'm sorry, the land underneath, I'm confused there.
A little better clarification is, if I may, the property underneath the road, who actually owns the road, that paperwork has to be signed off. And then what he's talking about, okay, does that help a little bit?
The county owns the land under California Avenue and the city owns the land under 5th Street. So we're going to swap those titles so that we will own the land under 5th Street. So when we build the building across, it'll all be county property.
All right, my statement or whatever question is, since it's not complete, I would just hate to see California get done without any documentation signed. Well, you don't hit 5th Street.
We do have an agreement that says that's going to happen.
Written? agreement?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you. That's, I guess that one word I wanted to hear.
Yes.
Thanks.
Then we'll move on to letter B, construction contract with Ventures Architect, discussion of possible action. We have a copy of that. We got explanation from Rebecca about the contract going forward, and we, as a committee of the ad hoc, we came upon agreement that we had passed on to Public Works and approved it. So that's what I'm asking here, is if we're willing to approve that and move it on to the full county board. Questions?
I make a motion to approve. Pete?
I'll second. We have some questions.
Okay, let's do this first. We have a motion by Mr. Howey, second by Mr. Peters. to approve and pass on the full county board. Discussion. Question. Go ahead, Mr. Peters.
I've just as I was going through this, I've noticed the vertical lines by some of the paragraphs. I mean, that's the addition that I have. Anyway, I don't know if that's still there. Are those items that are filled in, have been filled in after consultation? Or what is the reason for in the right-hand or left-hand column?
Left-hand column of things not filled in, is that what you said?
No, there's verbiage there, but I didn't know whether or not that was unique verbiage or was it within the, this looks like it's a kind of a standard form.
Yeah, it's a standard AIA contract, and I think the vertical lines on the left are perhaps what Rebecca has worked out with revisions. Rebecca, do you have comment on that?
Yes, very good question. The vertical lines do indicate that revisions have been made to the standard language of the AIA document. Just to give you a very brief background, AIA documents, contracts are a standardized set of agreements used in the construction industry, and different agreements are used to document different relationships. So this agreement that you have in front of you is between the owner, Sawyer County, and Venture Architects. And so it is a standardized form, but there are provisions that needed to be revised, mainly because the county is a government entity, and we have to make sure that the contract memorializes and is in sync with what the county's statutory obligations are. So that's the primary reason for any revisions. But then also there's just general revisions, that we as legal counsel advise the county to make, just to minimize your risk. And so those revisions are also included in this version. So this version has been discussed several times with Venture and with their leadership. Leadership. Jacqueline is the head of the component that agrees to these contracts. So it has been vetted, and so this should be the final version that would go to the board.
Okay, and then there are a number of other, for example, in Article 7, there are paragraphs deleted, and I assume that they are just not appropriate for the contract between Venture and the county.
Rebecca?
That's correct.
Can you hear him correctly?
I think that's it.
Okay. Is there any questions from Mr. Olson or Mr. Bissonnette?
I'm good, Mr. Chairman.
I'm good also.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second to approve the contract of Ventures and pass it on to the full county board. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Letter C, construction contract with Meyer Construction, discussing possible. That contract is not ready yet. So here's the situation. Presently, the way I understand it, they're trying to get it done before our full county board meeting on the 17th. I don't like that. I want it to come to the ad hoc committee and to the public works. But sometimes you have to adjust to make things work. So here's the question for public works. If they have the contract done by the 17th and legal counsel's okay with it, do you want to meet prior to the full county board meeting on the 17th to approve this contract? Because the ad hoc committee potentially is going to, if the contract's done. So here's what could happen. The contract gets done, the ad hoc committee is going to meet. After that, public works can meet, and then we'll have the full county board. Your comments, your thoughts.
I would like to see it go just like you explained.
Okay.
Personally.
that would be fine. I will not be able to be involved in those discussions. I'm going to be on vacation, and hopefully I'm going to get to my destination by the time of the county board meeting, so I will be able to at least address it at that time.
Okay. But if we have a meeting virtual and if you're at a place that you
Oh,
can,
well, I'm pretty sure it depends on exactly when I get there and what kind of things my granddaughter wants to do. I
yes,
guess.
that's fine. But you'll be able to connect to see if we're having a meeting or not.
Yes.
Time, if your option.
Yes.
All right?
I would really appreciate it happening that way as well.
Okay. It just makes the flow a little bit better. I don't want to go straight to the board and then have 10,000 questions that can't be answered.
Agreed.
Okay? So potentially that could happen or it may not happen. That takes care of letter C. We'll move on to number 13, future agenda items. We know we're gonna have the cell towers. We're gonna start looking at some of the leases again at the airport. Other things that you folks would like to have on the agenda. The budget's gonna be coming because in July, budgets start with the department heads. Yes?
What about the veteran service building? Should that be on this?
Yes, that was something I wanted to bring up too.
Okay.
I would like this committee to have input, if thoughts, what they want to do with that veteran center, the building where it's at. And I'm thinking, when I asked last month, I'm getting the impression we're gonna replace it. We'll replace it. Where are they gonna go? This committee has to have input on that. I don't know that the building down on Highway 63 is going to be available or not. I know that tentatively in the construction of the new building, there is a room set up similar to this assembly room, but it's bigger because we felt if you're gonna build a room, I was a little bigger. I myself, I would give up that room if I needed to give it to veterans because veterans are more important to me than it is for me.
What building is that in?
The new courthouse building, or courtroom building.
That's 63.
Oh, I'm sorry. Building on 63 is where they have
Oasis.
Oasis building.
Oh. So they possibly would move into there?
Well, it's been checked into. There was anything discussed last night at Health and Human Services?
Yes.
And how
It's still under discussion where we're going with that. But I mean, that's a county-owned facility. We're just looking at other county-owned facilities.
Sure.
Other space within this building. Different options on what we could do if we wanted to vacate that building.
I guess my question on the building itself, is it run down to the point that they can't be using it? Why are they trying to vacate?
Okay. There was, Mr. Hagberg passed or sent out, did it just go to me or did it go to the whole committee?
I think
Yeah,
so.
a couple
A couple of months ago, we had a list of stuff that needed looking into. And we can put that back on the agenda again next month, because I don't want to get into it too much. This is just discussion for other items for next month. So we can certainly put that back on.
Please do.
Yep, we will do that. Okay? Anything else for discussion that matters? Hearing none, thank you. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, Mr. Olson. Thank you, Mr. President. Good job.
Very good meeting.